Today, we're digging into why that old build a bigger wall idea for cybersecurity is just, well, it's broken. We're going to break down a modern strategy for real resilience, and it's all built on two fundamental pillars that connect everyone from the boardroom all the way down to the code. Let's get into it.
So let's just kick things off with a big question. Is your firewall really enough anymore? You know, for the longest time, we all thought of cybersecurity as a tech problem that you could solve with a tech solution. Just buy the right software, set up the perfect defenses, and boom, you're safe. But now, with threats like AI-driven attacks and massive cybercrime groups, that whole fortress mentality just doesn't cut it.
And this really captures the huge shift we're all seeing. On one side, you've got the old view. It was totally reactive. You'd wait for something bad to happen, then scramble to fix it. And everyone just assumed it was an IT problem. But the new reality is completely different. You have to be proactive. It's everyone's responsibility across the whole business, and the goal isn't just protection, it's resilience. It's about being able to take a punch and keep on going. So here's our game plan. We're going to explore our two main pillars. First, we'll look at governance, which is the top-down strategy. Then we'll dive into proactive design, the ground-up execution. After that, we'll see where these two pillars meet, and finally, how you can build this way of thinking right into the DNA of your organization. Okay, let's dive into that first pillar, top-down governance. This is all about the view from the boardroom, because real, effective security doesn't start in the server room anymore. It has to start with leadership, with policy, and with a clear, overarching strategy. So when we say governance, what are we actually talking about? Well, think of it as the rulebook. It's the framework that lays out who is responsible for what. It's the set of clear policies and repeatable processes that guide every single security decision. It's about turning security from a technical checklist into a core part of how the business runs. And this is where you really see a huge shift in thinking. First, it's a shared responsibility. Security isn't just one person's job anymore. The focus also has to move from if an attack happens to when it happens, which puts the emphasis on recovering quickly. And maybe most importantly, this isn't something that can just be delegated way down the chain. Board-level oversight is absolutely mandatory. Okay, so how do you actually do this? Well, leaders have to start by adopting proven frameworks like NIST or ISO 27001. They've got to treat cyber risk the same way they treat financial risk or operational risk. This means creating incident response plans. And then this is the key part, actually testing them. Run drills, do simulations, don't just let the plans sit on a shelf. And finally, build a culture where your employees are seen as your first line of defense, your first firewall, not your weakest link. All right, that's the top-down view. Now let's flip it and look at our second pillar, proactive design. If governance is a strategy from the top, design is the execution from the ground up. It's all about building security into your products and your systems from the very first sketch on a whiteboard, not trying to bolt it on at the last minute. The key discipline here is something called threat modeling. The best way to think about it is like a structured way of thinking like an attacker, before you've even written a single line of code. By looking at a system's design and mapping out how data moves through it, your teams can spot potential weaknesses and fix them when it's still cheap and easy to do. And really, it all comes down to this one simple mantra, which was perfectly put by expert Adam Shostak. When security is part of that initial conversation, it becomes a feature of the product, not just a frantic last-minute fix. So, how do you do this systematically? Well, frameworks like STRI are incredibly helpful. It's a really clever mnemonic that gives developers and designers a checklist of bad things to think about. Could someone spoof an identity here? Could this data be tampered with? It forces the team to consider all the different angles an attacker may take and build defenses from the start. But here's the thing. Threat modeling isn't a one-and-done checkbox. It has to be a living, breathing process. It needs to be part of every new project. Over time, you should build your own library of common threats specific to your business. And you need a standard way to prioritize which risks to fix first, using a framework like DREAD to figure out what's most urgent. It's a cycle, not a single task. Okay, so we've got our top-down strategy from Pillar 1 and our ground-up design from Pillar 2. But here's the most important part. They are totally useless if they exist in separate silos. This is where the two pillars have to meet to unify that high-level strategy with day-to-day practice. So what's the glue that holds these two pillars together? It's culture, plain and simple. Specifically, it's a culture built on two key things: a genuine sense that everyone shares responsibility for security, and a real commitment to continuous, relevant training for every single person. And this is so important.
That generic one-size-fits-all security training video that everyone has to watch once a year, it's pretty much useless. An executive doesn't need a class on secure coding, but they absolutely need to be trained on how to make good decisions during a crisis. The finance team needs deep dives on payment fraud. Developers need hands-on threat modeling workshops. When you tailor the training, you make it stick.
And this culture, it has to be driven from the very top. Leadership is the engine. They have to lead by example. That means taking the training themselves. They have to allocate the resources and budget to make all of this happen. They set the tone by making things like threat modeling mandatory. When a CEO publicly endorses security as a priority, it sends a powerful message that this isn't just an IT thing, it's a core business value.
So let's bring it all together. We know these pillars are the foundation, and culture is the bridge. Now it's about making this real, turning all this theory into day-to-day reality.
When you boil it all down, it's actually pretty simple. Everything comes back to these two core pillars, working together in harmony. You need that top-down strategy and governance, combined with that ground-up security by design mindset.
And here's the ultimate payoff. When you get this right, something really profound happens. Cybersecurity stops being this thing you have to do, this cost center you hate paying for. It becomes a strategic enabler. It builds trust with your customers, it protects your brand, and ultimately it gives you a real competitive advantage. And that leaves us with one final thought. I want you to take a hard look at your own organization and ask this question. Is security just something you pay for, or is it something you truly value? The answer to that question will tell you everything you need to know about how resilient you really are.